Tensions between Mexico and the United States are at an all-time high. President Donald Trump has threatened a 20% import tax on Mexican goods in order to make Mexico pay for a border wall. Some senators, even including Trump's Republican counterparts like Lindsey Graham, have opposed the idea of a tariff, considering the toll it would take on both American and Mexican citizens. For starters, Mexico is highly reliant on the United States as an importer of goods, and not just agriculturally as some believe. In 2016, the three largest Mexican exports for the United States were electrical machinery and equipment, nuclear reactors, and motor vehicles. Together, the US and Mexico make up more than $500 billion a year in bilateral trade, and a restrictive tax could potentially cripple the Mexican economy. But it would also cripple the US economy, at least in the short term, and make things more complicated and more expensive in almost every area of an American consumer's life. For example, let's say you drive down to the local supermarket to pick up a bacon, lettuce, tomato, and avocado sandwich. The car you're driving to the store is potentially built with a large number of Mexican-made parts. In 2016, about 35% of the Chevrolet Malibu was made with imported parts, and Mexico is the top foreign supplier of car parts to the United States. This is despite Chevrolet being owned by General Motors, a classically American car company. With a high tariff on these parts, the US will have to increase trade with countries like China, which is already the US's largest trade partner. Or if that proves too expensive, the US would have to set up the same manufacturing plants domestically, which could increase the cost of American-made cars. And that sandwich you bought, it wouldn't be as cheap or possibly even available without low-tax trade with Mexico. Most avocados, for example, don't come from the United States. About 2/3 of avocados are imported, and 90% of those come from Mexico. It's unlikely that US producers would be able to match the output of Mexican farms, at least not at first, as a newly planted avocado tree takes about 4 to 5 years to bear fruit. The bacon in the BLTA is another cause for concern. Mexico imports 83% of America's exported slaughter hogs, which are pigs bred specifically for food. Mexico can easily bump up its own tariff or simply look elsewhere for meat, which would force pig farmers in the US to find a new importer for nearly all of their excess livestock. As for the tomato, while it isn't as big of a problem to grow them in the United States, it may not be their price, but their quality that'll suffer. Many American tomato growers are located in Florida, the second largest producer in the United States. Florida suffers from regular heavy rains, which degrades the quality of tomatoes on the vine as they ripen. Meanwhile, Mexican tomatoes are grown in sunshine on cheaper land using cheaper labor. And all of this is ignoring the ability to buy the Mexican-sourced sandwich to begin with. Supermarkets have enormous overhead, paying for staff, refrigeration, electricity, shipping, and so on, which they're only able to sustain by selling cheap goods at a higher price. A tax on Mexico will mean that prices will have to rise, and supermarkets may have to find new sources. Some of these stores may not even survive a price increase. After President Trump threatened the tax, stock market shares of supermarkets dropped, showing that investors may be less interested in the hassle that may come with Trump's tax. And investment isn't all one-sided. Firstly, American businesses have invested billions in Mexico to facilitate a vast network of trade. Just in 2013, General Motors invested more than $500 million in manufacturing plants in Mexico. Should Trump's tax become law, it's possible that this plant will become unsustainable without regular imports to the US. And on the other hand, Mexican investments in the US have doubled in the past decade. These foreign direct investments fuel more than 120,000 jobs and contribute $16.6 billion to the US economy. Any of the US president's plans seem to end badly for Mexico's economy, but will also implicitly hurt the US economy, alongside American consumers who have come to rely on a mutually beneficial relationship with their neighbors. President Donald Trump's trade plans have also put the future of the North American Free Trade Agreement in doubt, which could further complicate trade between the US and Mexico. Mexico's role in the US economy is often overlooked, but it is, without question, a crucial part that the country will struggle to replace. Countries around the world go to extremes to improve their economic standing. In Myanmar, mining a precious stone accounts for half of the country's GDP. Watch this video from Seeker Stories to learn more about the human cost of the jade industry. And make sure to subscribe to Seeker Stories for more new videos.